Now, you've been an advocate of this way of eating for a long time now, so I'm sure you've seen it all. What are the
Mhm.
main benefits of a carnivore diet that you see happening over and over?
Well, it just optimizes health. And so people then have all sorts of different health issues, and many of them go away. Like I said, 90% of deaths in the Western countries come from these non-communicable chronic diseases. I don't think that those are diseases at all. They're just going up radically. That's not genetic, that's environmental. And so as we've been changing the way we're eating less biologically appropriate diet, these diseases are getting more profound. And so when I put people on a carnivore diet in my medical practice, or just people go on it, anyway on their own, we're seeing diseases reverse. We're seeing diabetes it has been proven in clinical trials in humans to be able to be reversed with a high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diet. And so that was out of Verta Health in America with Professor Steve Phinney, and his group Verta Health has now helped over 25,000 people reverse their type 2 diabetes, which was heretofore thought was irreversible. It could not be treated. 100 years ago, the only treatment we had for diabetes type 1 or type 2 was a ketogenic diet, a high fat meat based ketogenic diet. That was the only thing that kept people alive, even without insulin, even when with type 1 diabetics. It was the only thing that kept people alive. And then we came up with insulin, and they said, okay, but you really need carbs. Carbs are a really good idea. And so you ended up bringing carbs in with the insulin as well. Whereas forgetting that the original treatment was no carbs, that's what helped people. Well, now we rediscovered this, and so diabetes goes away. Like I said, blood pressure issues can go away as well. A lot of people coming off their blood pressure medication, autoimmune issues. If someone has an autoimmune issue, this is probably the best thing they'll ever do with their entire life. Um, as far as I can tell, what an autoimmune disease is actually your body actually appropriately defending your body against these different sort of invasive toxins that are getting your body, like lectins. Lectins have a strong degree of association with autoimmunity, and your body attacks these things. The lectins can attack your body and get into your bloodstream through leaky gut. It also comes from plant toxins like gluten and other lectins that damage the gut lining. And now these other plant toxins can get in your body, bacteria can get in your body, and they can cause damage in your body. And now your body's trying to attack these things, attacking with antibodies, and then some unlucky few are getting crossover reaction with your body. Or another idea by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, who's an extremely accomplished neurosurgeon in Europe. She wrote the GAPS diet, and she actually reversed her child's autism by changing their diet. And she espouses a very heavily meat-based diet and actually get away from plants and plant toxins. So she actually argues fairly fairly closely for a carnivore diet, or at least approaching that. And she talks about these toxins and lectins that actually get into the body, and they actually attack your thyroid, they attack your gut, they attack other parts of your body, and then your body makes antibodies towards that complex. And so you have these specific antibodies that are now damaging your thyroid or your intestine or other parts of your body, and or your nervous system in cases of like multiple sclerosis and those sorts of things. But the thought is that you have a sensitizing reaction, maybe to an infection, maybe to a virus, and then there's a cross reaction with your body, and then your body sensitizes those antibodies towards your body. But that never made sense to me. I took postgraduate immunology before I went to medical school, and it's very clear that the immune cells actually have to go into your thymus and other parts of the body to mature as immune cells, and they are tested against all the different antigens in your body, all the different antigens that your body makes. And if they even have a weak association or attraction to them, they get killed immediately. And so you don't actually put out immune cells that will attack your body, right? And so that never made sense to me, and it doesn't fit the picture either, because when you take away plants and you just put people on a pure meat diet, especially a pure red meat and water diet, when the animal's eating what it's supposed to eat, it's going to be healthier as well. It's going to be able to filter out these plant toxins so they don't get into the meat, and they're not going to get into you. And so people with autoimmune issues, that's very important. And so when you're eating like that, you're eating beef, lamb, water, especially the ruminant animals, because they ferment and break down these plant toxins, even out of plants that they're not typically designed to eat. And they break those down and lower the toxic load before they absorb them. And so less of that stuff is going to get in the body, even if they're eating plants that they're not normally going to eat. And so when they just eat that and they cut out all plants, we can actually test for antibodies for a lot of these things. You can't test for all antibodies, but a lot of these things, like say Hashimoto's, you can test for those antibodies. And I have over 100 patients with Hashimoto's. And when they are able to stay on a pure red meat and water diet and stay strict with it, you just see their antibodies just come right down, and eventually they'll get down to zero. It takes a long time for Hashimoto's. It can take over a year, depending on how high the antibodies are, but it happens, and you can keep seeing it. It's coming down and down and down, and their thyroid function is going up and up and up because they're not damaging their body to near the same extent. So it just optimizes your health. It optimizes your energy. You have less brain fog. You have less mental fatigue. Your brain's running on ketones now, which is its primary energy source. People say that no, you have to have glucose for your brain. Well, there are some cells in your brain that do require glucose, but good news, you make glucose when you're in a state of ketosis, and it's perfect. It's always leveled. You're not these ups and downs and these swings and jumps, right? It's just here all the time. You will always have just a perfect blood sugar level all the time, but you also have ketones. And 2/3 of your brain actually prefer ketones. Why do I say that? Because when you have enough ketones and you have an abundance of glucose, those parts of your brain, 2/3 of your brain, including the cortex, will only run on the ketones, right? So that's the preference. It prefers ketones. It's only when those ketones start going down and aren't sufficient that you start filling in the gaps with glucose. And so when you are eating a lot of carbohydrates, you raise insulin, you suppress your ketone production. You go out of ketosis. And well, now you don't have ketones available, so your brain needs to go on its secondary food supply, which is glucose. And so that's what we've come to think of it as our brain's primary energy source, because they say, well, when you eat, it looks like this, and when you don't eat, it looks like that. Neglecting to realize that when you eat anything except carbohydrates, it also looks like you're fasting and not eating anything. So they think that, well, because when you eat, we call this a fasting metabolism, your brain runs on glucose, therefore glucose is the main driver there, the main nutrient source, but that's not the case, because it actually prefers ketones. And our normal metabolic state is ketosis. And that metabolic state, natural metabolic state of most animals on Earth is ketosis, because 70% of animals are carnivores, and they just eat protein and fat, and they're in ketosis. But then again, herbivores, they break down fiber into protein and fat. And so they're in ketosis as well. And so, why would that, automatically be a problem stress state when most animal life on Earth is in that metabolic state as well? So you improve in all these different ways. People will lose weight, they'll lose fat, they'll gain muscle, they gain health, they come off medications. Their gums and teeth get better. You change what you eat. You're going to change the bacteria in their mouth. You're going to change your oral biome. You're going to change your microbiome, and that all improves as well. So people don't have cavities as much. They don't have tooth decay. They don't have bad dentition and gingivitis that ends up reversing very quickly. I mean, what animal in the wild gets tooth rot and tooth decay? You lose your teeth in the wild, you're dead because you can't eat. You can't defend yourself. You can't fight. You can't hunt, but you also can't eat, right? And so it's very important to keep your teeth. And even without toothbrushes and dentists, you should be able to keep your teeth your whole life, because as soon as you lose your teeth, you're not going to live much longer, right? So there honestly, there are more benefits than you can sort of list in one time, but it just in the short of it, it just optimizes health, and it gets people healthy. It gets them off medication. It gets them down to a normal body fat percentage of body composition. Helps them put on muscle, healthy lean body mass, and lose excess body fat. And maybe if they're too skinny, it actually helps them put on a bit of healthy body fat, because you need some body fat. It's very important for you, and certainly put on lean body mass as well. Helps with brain fog, helps with cognition, helps with another experimental study and another interventional trial that they had with the high fat meat based ketogenic diet was in Alzheimer's. So they had people with Alzheimer's that were put on this sort of diet, like a high fat meat based ketogenic diet, like a carnivore diet, and they found that that was a better treatment for Alzheimer's than every medication ever trialed for Alzheimer's. Right. So schizophrenia, multiple mental health issues, major depression, anxiety, OCD, bipolar, even ADHD, even autism have been found in clinical trials to improve on a high fat meat based ketogenic diet. And this is being used by professors of psychiatry at Harvard, such as Professor Chris Palmer and former professor at Harvard, Dr. Georgia Ede, who have both written books on the subject. Chris Palmer's is Brain Energy, and Dr. Eads is Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. And they both talk about the importance of a high fat meat based ketogenic diet. And Dr. Eid actually has a whole chapter on the carnivore diet and how actually this is the best for mental health as well. So the list goes on and on and on, but basically it just optimizes your health. And so, it's well worth trying. It's not going to hurt you. There's nothing harmful about it. There's nothing harmful about what we've been eating since time immemorial. There's nothing harmful about what 70% of animals on Earth are eating without any problem. And even herbivores opportunistically eat smaller animals when they have the opportunity to, when they can. And so there's nothing harmful in meat. The main argument was cholesterol, and that's been thoroughly debunked countless times. So it's not going to harm you. It can potentially help you. And so if someone is struggling with some sort of health issues or on medications or having weight issues or want to put on muscle or whatever, you try eating this way, do it for 30 days, see how you feel, because that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what a study says. What studies are there for is to help guide your behavior, to help guide medical practice. So what am I going to recommend to my patient? What did the evidence say? Well, I think the evidence is very clear that we should just be eating meat and not eating plants. And so I recommend that. And when I recommend that to my patients, I see their health improve dramatically. Their blood markers and biomarkers improve dramatically. Their physical markers improve dramatically. They come off medications. They improve their health in all sorts of other ways as well. So I see that. But and I think the evidence is quite convincing, but, the only thing that matters is what happens with you. It doesn't matter what the study says. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. What matters is what happens when you do it. And so if you try it for 30 days and you improve your health, great. And if you don't like it and you want to do something else, fine, but it's well worth the effort. And it can improve your health and your life in ways that you actually had no idea you could. I have so many people telling me that their health improves in ways they didn't even know that there was a problem until it went away. And some people say, well, I'm not actually sick. I don't actually have health problems. So, I guess I don't need to do it. The response to that is like, well, actually, most people don't even realize how unwell they actually feel until they get away from it and they start feeling amazing. And they like, I had no idea that I could feel this good. I thought I felt great. I thought I was fine. And then I stopped eating plants and I felt like a superhero. And I looked at and I was upset after 2 weeks. I was extremely upset. And I looked back at my life and realized that compared to how I felt now and how I should have felt my whole life, I felt like garbage. And I was furious because I knew that I was robbed of my birthright. I should have felt this amazing every day of my life, and more so because I was younger then, right? So this is something that can help in thousands of different ways and will help different people in different ways as well. But it just optimizes health. That's all it comes down to. And so if you want optimal health, whether you have, any known health issues or not, if you want to optimize your health, be as healthy as you can, be as good of an athlete, good as a student, good of a scholar, especially for kids, it's most important because they're going to develop to their genetic potential. You only get one chance to develop, and that's it. You're not going to be as tall, as smart, or as healthy as you would have been if you ate a more proper diet. When we look at skeletal remains pre and post agriculture, it's a marked decline in the height and health of human beings after they adopted plant-based agriculture. The brain shrunk by 11% for men, by 17% for women, and that wasn't hundreds of years or thousands of years. That was immediately after the introduction of agriculture. At every point around the world, at every time and every place around the world that switched to agriculture, regardless of the type of crop, the same things happened. The height, health, and brain size of people declined. And it's not like around the world it happened, it's just in those isolated areas. And we saw this in real time with the Native Americans, the Native Australians in the last 150 years, getting more westernized and putting on a more Western diet and away from their hunter-gatherer sort of pasts, and started eating more plant-based crop agriculture and now processed food. Same exact same thing happened. They shrank and they had more chronic diseases. And now they actually have far higher rates of chronic disease than Westerners and other people that have had agriculture longer because they've only been exposed to agriculture and these plant toxins in the last 150 years. And so they're actually hit much harder by this and is affecting them much more negatively. And, we can see this happening in real time to real people. And it's actually quite tragic.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like basically everything is resolved by a carnivore diet.